All right, guys, welcome back to the Paradigm Shift. We had a little bit of a hiatus as I was on a little bit of a business trip out in Las Vegas for about 9 days. I am back now. I am Big Rob, of course, back with Jesse, my partner in crime. What's going on, buddy?
Hey man, just been holding it down while you were away. Ready to go for today's episode. I know this one is a bit of a loaded topic with a lot of opinions, a lot of views, and we're here to hurt some feelings. So let's get it going.
It's going to be a shit show, that's for sure. All right, so we're gonna kind of expand on the dating world in 2026. Now there's a lot of he said she said stuff that's going on. I mean, there's a lot of speculation on the fact that men have essentially walked away from dating and marriage, and they're focused on themselves for the most part, right? Now that is an effect of a cause, and on the flip side of that coin, it is very stereotypical. And again, we don't want to glaze over everybody, but there is a stereotype for women that they have started to view dating as a financial transaction instead of trying to build a family, trying to turn a house into a home, right? And again, just like with men, that is a cause. What is the effect? Why is this stuff happening? Or sorry, that's an effect, not a cause. I had that backwards, right? What's the cause of men and women approaching dating in 2026? What's the cause of these effects? Because for every action, there's a reaction, right? What's the root of the problem? Where should we even begin? Should we start with men?
Sure. Why not? Right? We're guys. We can start there.
Exactly. For me personally, we're fortunate, by the way, because we're both in relationships that we got into before these problems kind of started, right?
True.
So with men, what I'm seeing I see a lot of content on this stuff, right? Men have essentially said that there is no benefit for a man in marriage anymore, right? You go into a high stakes relationship where you put everything on the line financially. You get to lose over half of what you have if it doesn't work out on the whim of a woman. If she decides one day because her friends tell her she should just divorce you because there's better things out there, you lose half your shit. You lose custody of your children, and at the end of the day, divorce affects men on a mental and emotional level far greater than I think women realize. That's why probably one of the contributing factors to the higher unalive rate when it comes to men, right?
Okay.
We have to say it that way, otherwise, the algorithm won't like us very much. So, what do you think about that?
Um, I would have to think of I would have to first think of my friends that have been divorced here or there, right? Um, I know in one of the relationships, in that scenario, he was kind of the golden goose, and it would. I don't know if you've seen this in your life, but you see it sometimes where one of your friends will pair up with a chick and she's like crazy and she like alienates him from everybody, friends, family, everyone, right? So my particular friend, he had somebody like that, and they got married and they had a kid. And on top of that, their kid had some special needs, right? So there was always kind of this stress. But the weird thing is he was traveling all the time, and so the relationship kind of went on, I think, because he wasn't there, right? And I've seen a few of these where the relationship will go on and on and on because they're really not together, very often. And in that scenario, it got worse and worse and worse, and everything he did irritated her in that scenario. And finally he filed for divorce on that one. And that was probably 5 to, let's say, 8 years ago. And in the time since, um, this is how well she made out on that deal. Okay, he paid her like 300 to 400 grand. She got half of their house, paid off Mercedes, all these things, right? And and in the time since, she took him to court, and they're still in court, and they just keep going round and round and round and round, and they're her attorney will file something, and then his attorney has to respond, and it's probably already cost her 75 grand, 100,000 or more. I don't even know what they're arguing about at this point. And with him, his attorney says stuff like, "Hey, well, if you pay me a 50,000 flat fee, then that incentivizes me to get your case done, and you won't have to pay more, right?" And of course he's paid it. So between the two of them, they're just like flushing money down the toilet. In the meantime, they have the kid that they share custody of. Um, just a train wreck of a relationship, I think, on that one. And in the meantime, he actually got remarried. And when he remarried, because of the kid with the special needs, the new wife had to get certain certifications or whatever to be around her. And the old wife is even more mad, hence the lawsuit. um, all I gotta say is thank God I'm not in that situation.
Well, there's something my wife refers to as parallel play, right? Now, I'm not sure if you know what that is or not. I didn't before I met her. I'll tell you that much. But basically, as a relationship grows, right? One of the problems is that people are constantly, especially nowadays, looking for that dopamine hit. They're looking for the lust honeymoon phase of a relationship. And when it starts to fizzle and it starts to kind of retrace to parallel play, which essentially is being able to have your own interests and your own kind of hobbies or whatever it is that you do, being able to go away from each other and come back, be able to trust each other that you're going to be loyal and all that stuff when you go out, when you go do whatever it is you're going to do, or even if you're in the same building, if you're in the house, you don't necessarily constantly have to be in the same room together, right? You could be downstairs watching a movie and she could be upstairs doing something as well. And that's called parallel play. And when you start to kind of evolve into that stage of a relationship, that's where the instant gratification people of this generation start to bail and go, well, I mean, I'm just not important anymore, so I'm just going to go. Not realizing that actually what's happening is your relationship is deepening and evolving to a point where you don't necessarily always have to be around each other, but you still have each other's backs. You're still there. You're still building something together, right? Um, and I wasn't familiar with the term parallel play before I met my wife, and it makes all the sense in the world now. Like, we spend barely any time together during the day, and I'm not saying, oh, don't spend any time together, but we're perfectly fine. Like I said, I just got back from Vegas for 9 days. She didn't give a crap. Right? Not in
Didn't
that
even
way.
know you weren't there because the door's always shut anyways, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. I'm in my office, but it's like, she misses me while I'm gone, and we'll talk while I'm gone and stuff like that. But we have that healthy relationship where, it's like I just got back from Japan, and then I went to Arizona, and then now I just got back from Las Vegas. And, it's not, well, you're never here. It's never that. It's, I come home to my favorite meal. I come home to a clean house. I come home to a welcoming family. And, I'm not coming home to another battle. And I think that's I think what women don't understand about men is that men need two things in a relationship. That's it. And they're different things than women need. Your husband needs respect and appreciation in his own home. That's it. If he has those two things, he will move mountains for you. The minute you start to disrespect him and not appreciate him in his own home becomes no longer a sanctuary, and he starts to seek that respect and appreciation somewhere else. Right?
Yeah. I could
That's
see that. I could see that. You know, and my buddy who was the golden goose, that's 100% true. And it just where it would really go bad was when they were both there together. Like I said, like when he was gone, everything was fine. But then when they were together is when it went really bad. Um, but I think, I think today, and some of this is cultural, right? Some of it's technology based, I think, truthfully. Like, everybody's got a short attention span now, right? I mean, no matter what it is, it's like you're scrolling endlessly. You only can look at something for like 10 seconds, you're done. I think we have a really we've got like a throwaway culture. It's like use it, toss it, get rid of it, on to the next. And I don't know if a lot of people really do hard work anymore. I mean, like I try to emphasize that, like at our house, like, when the going gets tough, we're gonna get right in the middle of it. Like let's go. Like we're not drawing the blinds and getting in bed and we'll worry about it tomorrow. Like no. Like we're gonna roll up the sleeves, we're gonna get this thing knocked out, and then we'll be better on the other side. And I think that's true in relationships, it's true in dating. I mean, I think if you can get past those challenging times, and usually the other side is even better, you know?
mhm. I agree. I think that men and women have different strengths, and it always irks me when people, are like, "Well, we're equal." We're not. We're equal, but in different ways,
We're
right?
complementary, you know?
We're Yes, exactly. Thank you. It's women are like, some women are like, "Well, I can do anything." We do. You're not supposed to do what a man can do, right? I'll give you an example. Men are in their when you have a woman who's standoffish with her man, you're entering a level of masculinity when you're getting in your man's face and you're arguing with him and you're fighting with him and stuff. He doesn't know what to do with that, right? Because you are designed with femininity, right? That is your superpower. And my wife has it in spades. When I'm upset about something, whether I'm angry or at her or somebody else's situation, she has this magic ability to just walk up, put her hands on mine, and talk softly to me, and it just goes away, man. It's just I'm not angry anymore, right? Whether I'm if I'm even when I'm wrong, and but the way that she delivers it, she's flexing her femininity, her gift, right? What makes her special as a woman, and she's designed that way. All women are designed that way. They have that ability to control a man and his emotion like that, right? We're built that way, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I like that way of looking at it. Like I don't know if I know both of us are, on X, Twitter, here and there. I don't know if you've noticed this on X, and maybe it's just X or maybe it's cultural or I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. But there's a lot of content on there that's like that manosphere type of shit. You know what I'm talking about? Like it's like that Andrew Tate, like he's like, the biggest British asshole there is, or wherever he's from, somewhere in Europe. And there's kind of like this like meathead
Obey
men-
me,
what's that?
obey me type attitude.
Yeah, in a way, it's just like this weird like meathead mentality of just sort of treating somebody like crap, and then they'll want to be around you even more. And the psychology major in me, like I can see some of that, right? Because it is kind of a competitive thing, and like if you give somebody everything, then what are they desiring? Like nothing, right? Because it's too easy, right? So I can kind of see that side of it, but at the same time, the other side of it, just this constant like meathead machismo stuff is very off-putting to me. And like on X, it seems like every like fourth or fifth post is that shit now. It's just like everywhere. Is that just me?
No, you're right. I think that what's happened now, I'm a Christian, right?
Yeah.
So I think what's happened is people have taken the traditional roles of a relationship in a household and contorted them and twerk them into something that they aren't, right? Now, we have a traditional household here, right? We both wanted a traditional family. So, what that means is, as a man, I think that this is kind of what happened with women where they took a left turn when it came to their attitude towards men, is that men today, most of them, don't want to understand the responsibilities that they have in a family dynamic or in this world at all, right? Me as a man, it is my responsibility to keep everyone safe, financially secure, and, making sure that my wife has all the means that she needs to run a household properly and effectively. When you don't do that as a man, well, you're not providing the woman with what she needs to turn a house into a home,
Mm.
right? And that's on you, whether you like it or not. This world can be a cold, callous place, and as a man, it is your responsibility, especially a man with a family, to provide, right? And to take the abuse, not necessarily abuse, but be able to shoulder and carry your family, the weight of that, right? And most men today don't want to. They want an easy way out, right? They want to be feminized and whine and complain, and things are too hard. And what do you mean I got to work 8 hours a day, right? You know what I mean? Like, I think that that's kind of part of the problem. Uh, they don't want the responsibilities of a traditional household. And you could flip the coin and say the exact same thing for women. You know how many times I listen to those podcasts like you're talking about, your Andrew Tate's, your whatever podcasts and stuff like that, where they have these women on and these women say, I want a traditional relationship. But really, what they're saying is, I want the benefits of a traditional relationship, i.e., I want a man to financially provide for me, buy me a car, buy me clothes, buy me a house, make sure I have everything that I want. I don't want to cook. I don't want to clean. I don't want to have children. I don't want to make a house a home. I want to go on trips with my girlfriends and I want him to pay for it, right? Behaving like you're single is not a traditional relationship, right? As a woman, if you want a traditional relationship, if you want a man who is financially able to provide for you and you don't have to work, you have responsibilities as well. Just going off and doing whatever you want, whenever you want, is not a traditional relationship, right? You got to take the crookeds with the straights.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Very
just
good
think
point.
that both sides, men and women of today, the majority, they all want the benefits of a traditional relationship. Men want a loyal woman who only looks at them, who only spends time with them, who spoils them and sleeps with them and all this stuff. But they don't want to take care of that woman. They don't want the responsibility of shouldering a family, right? And providing for her everything she needs. And same thing with women. Like I said, they want to act like they're single women, but they want somebody to pay for them. That's not a boyfriend, that's a father.
Mm. So, okay. So, what do you think about, I think kind of what you're highlighting is more of like the traditional household, let's say, right? But I do think there are strains and pressures today, especially financially, that everybody's sold, hey, you need a new car, and the price of a new car keeps going up, 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 up. Hey, you need a house, the price of a house keeps going up, 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 up. And so my point in saying all this is that all of your expenses have gone up, drastically, right? And I know I saw a post the other day where it was like, it was like a joke, and it was like, I can't believe that one salary used to buy all this, and it was like that 1950s stereotypical family in front of the house and the car, and all this stuff, right? But I mean, the reality is today is you do have a lot of uh, relationships where both people work, right? And then you go into this battle of whose job is more important, right? is my job, is your job, and then I think the kids kind of get left behind in that sometimes, right? And I know I've seen this in our family where there's different views on it, right? Like one view is, well, somebody should be home with the kids and they're going to be raised better. The other view is, no, we both need to work. They'll go to daycare. And I don't know about you, but you can see a daycare kid a mile away. Okay.
Yeah, not a
And
good idea.
yeah, so I mean, I can see those challenges that exist today on that front. Now, kind of going back to younger people and the manosphere and dating and all these things. Um, I think the current generation, truthfully, just needs to get off the phone and get out in the world. And I think when they do that, they kind of go, "Oh, yeah, I guess we can do this. I guess we can we can kind of fall into those norms that existed before the cell phone, before we were all playing Fortnite 24/7, all these things like that." So there's that. But the other thing too is I think they're very reliant on dating apps versus real life, just meeting people, right? And again,
Yeah.
like I can even think of this is not really having to do with dating, but just driving through my neighborhood, right, in the car. Some people wave at you, other people do not. And so I've taught my son, I'm like, hey, I'm like, when we're driving, we wave at everyone. And then if they don't wave, they're just gonna eat that, and we're gonna keep waving at them every time we see them. We're just gonna irritate the hell out of them, you know.
You
And I mean, that's kind of like the point. It's like you're in the real world. Time to become a real person. Like you're no longer like in this little insulated bubble in your room where you're shielded by everyone and everything by technology. you know
Well, that's exactly it, and that's what I was going to say about the whole, the price of everything has gone up so much and stuff. And yes, it has, right? And but that's not a crutch at the end of the day, in my opinion, right? Um, what I mean by that is that you know what, the world is a lot of things. It's not fair, and it's never going to be, especially for a man, right? Like I think it's who was it, Chris Rock or somebody who said, men are the only ones in the face of the earth who are only loved conditionally, right?
Mm.
Based on what you can provide. That's not going to change. That has always been the case. And that's not going to change no matter how much you feminize yourself as a man, no matter how much you whine, no matter how much you complain, right? It's not going to change. The world is the way that it is. Our government, we've gotten into it, how they've screwed our economy and stuff like that. Yes, it is hard. But that's your responsibility as a man to figure it out, right? That's what we're designed to do. From the dawn of time, when man had to hunt woolly mammoths, did they go, yeah, but it's hard, right? I don't want to. It's
I don't
hard.
want
Can't the
to.
mammoth just die so that I can eat it? Like, why do I have to do it? Right? It's not the way the world works. It never has been. It never will be. Right? People, and especially men, I think they need to realize no one's coming to save you. No one's coming to do it for you. You have to get up and do it yourself.
Okay, so let's talk about the idea of role models in this situation, right? Like whether it's from the female side or the male side. I think role models exist, but I think pop culture highlights the wrong people constantly, right? And I can think of this in terms of you see some of these celebrities and they're all out at some party trying to look cool, some club, throwing away money, being reckless, all these things like that. And I kind of look at that whole posture of a person, and it's like you're just like a facade, like none of that's real. Like, where's the real person in that whole thing? Like, I don't even know who I'm looking at. And I think about like personally, I don't drink, I don't really party, I don't do any of these things. Like, yeah, I've got plenty of hobbies and things that I do, but when I see a group of people doing that, it's like you're just projecting like sloppiness and like bad decisions, and you're making poor choices. And the TMZ or whoever is making it look like, yeah, like this is what you should strive for, and it's like, probably not. That's probably not what you should strive for. Like, that's probably the opposite of what you should strive for. And like, I look at like, for example, I think of like the Kardashians, right? Like, and the Jenners, right? Like that whole group. Okay. So, obviously the dad was an attorney for OJ. Okay. And, and then Kim had the sex tape. Okay. And then now they have a TV show, I guess. And then, it's like they keep parlaying it into something else. But it's like, are these people really like a role model? I mean, really? And like another one I see like that all the time. I see, what's her name? Cardi B, right? Every time I see her, it's like, well, Cardi B's married to a new guy, and she's got another kid on the way. And you're like, what? And like, I can remember back in time, this is probably like a decade ago, watching, I think I was watching ESPN at one point, right? And they did a little segment. It was like a 30 for 30 on these basketball wives. And it was these women that purposefully get pregnant with a basketball player because every pregnancy is like 150 grand a month for the rest of your life. So there was like a few of them that they had like kids with like 3, 4, 5 different basketball players, and they're basically millionaires forever. But the kids are the ones that take the brunt of like their piss poor management of their life and body and choices. And at the end of the day, like I always tell my wife that we're classical traditionalists. Like, I still kind of have like a classical view of things, and that's like way outside of it. But this is who's marketed to our kids, and who we're seeing on like Instagram reels and TikTok and whatnot.
I agree with you. Celebrities, definitely. There's a couple that are decent out there. Chris Pratt is definitely one that I don't mind. He's a Christian. He's always putting that narrative out there that the traditional family and a man's responsibilities and put God first and all that stuff. And I think we've lost some of that, even if you're not religious, right?
Yeah.
Um, you still have to have some sort of moral high ground when it comes to it. You can't just be all about yourself in this world, especially when you start to have family. And there's so many guys out there, for example, you know, that ditch their families. And I don't want to dive too deep into this part of it because I think we could go on forever about it. But, the government incentivizes that. It incentivizes removing the man from the house, right? Financially. And um, I think that a lack of role models is definitely a thing. I mean, we had great role models before, manly role models before, the 80s and stuff like that, and you just don't anymore, right? The internet could be one of the reasons, but at the end of the day, I think it boils down to we've sissified society. Men don't want responsibility. Women don't want their responsibilities. Everyone just wants the dopamine hit. They want the instant gratification. They want the benefits without the responsibilities. Don't want to work. Don't want to put your family first. I want to do what I want to do. Well, guess what? I got a family. I never get to do what I want to do. And you know what? I'm fine with that because I take pride in watching my wife and son do whatever they want to do because I provide their ability and their freedom to do that. That's where I get my sense of pride from, right? So
What do you think about these dating apps? So let me give you some scenarios, right? So my divorce buddy, when he was still divorced and not yet remarried, I would hear his stories from these dating apps, and it was like a battlefield of blown out people, right? It was like, unemployed flight attendant, unemployed bartender, unemployed nurse. And it was just like a graveyard of people that are uh,
Unemployed.
unemployed. Yeah, this is true. This is true. They were definitely unemployed. But one of my biggest gripes of watching that when he was doing all that was, I kept chirping in his ear. I'm like, dude, like, none of these people are on your level. Like, none of them, and it was just like, picking the best piece of rotten fruit, and you think you got a unicorn in there, like, you don't, like, they're all kind of, they've all got problems and issues, like my old boss used to say, the one common denominator in all of his failed relationships was him, you know? And that's true, right? And I think a bunch of those people kind of flock to these dating things, whereas like when you're younger, one of the reasons you make so many friends when you're younger and not really as you're older is that you're with this group of people, you're all around the same age, you're all kind of doing the same thing, you're in the same place at the same times. You have all these things in common, and it's like you really can build like some great relationships out of things like that, Or likewise, like if you're in high school or college, and you're in like a club or sports, or you're connected in the community or whatever. As long as you're connected, you can meet like-minded people, and there's tons of them out there. But I think that today there's like a lot of people that just get so isolated. They get so isolated, and like I see these posts like all over Reddit where it's just like endless loneliness of, yeah, I go to work, I have no prospects. I just do this over and over and over again. And it's like, get off your ass. Like, go out there and like, what are your interests? What are they? Like, go find people with similar interest. Oh, that's so hard. Well, that's because you've made no effort. You've made no effort. You've chosen to give up and get in bed. And now you're an adult and you suck,
I think the dating apps is boils down to the same problem I talked about earlier, and that's the instant gratification, the dopamine hit, right? You've got people on like what is it called? Where you swipe left or right, the dating app,
Right. Right.
Twitch, what the hell? I can't remember what it's called, but those are very popular now. And it's like nope, 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 nope. Like you're literally just swiping through hundreds of women or men. You know nothing about them,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You probably swiped left or whatever, right, whichever ways no, right? You probably swiped that way on someone that could have been the perfect match for you had you taken the time to get to know them.
Right.
But
Right.
you're just like, nope, 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 not gorgeous, nope, 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 nope. And it's just, you're just judging people on their pictures. It's literally, don't judge a book by its cover. That's literally what you're doing, right? Like, you can find all the physical parameters in a picture, mind you, that, I mean, probably was taken 10 years ago or something like that, right?
The picture's always misleading.
Yeah, it's always a catfish, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, you're judging everything on that. Could be, it's like for all you know, whether if it's some gorgeous guy, it's probably a fancy elevator ride to nowhere. He's probably an imbecile, right? And the same thing with women, right? You got she's physically, she looks exactly like perfect. She probably just wants your bank account, right? Right? Like,
You know what? You were thinking of Tinder. That's what you were thinking of.
Tinder, yes,
Tinder.
yes.
Because what this just reminded me of? I don't know if you've seen it on Netflix, the Tinder Swindler. Have you ever seen that?
Mm-mm.
It's like a documentary, right? So this guy, he's like a professional shitbag liar, and he makes it look like he's like Bruce Wayne or something, like he's got a private plane, and he's flying off to do deals, and you don't ever really know what it's all a lie. It's like a pyramid scheme where each girl he goes and sees, hey, and by the way, can you just loan me a little bit? I just need a little bit. And so he's getting them to, like, they're not only loaning him money, but it's like, yeah, here's my life savings. And they're like, he really likes me, but I don't know. I'm kind of nervous. And then all of a sudden he just sort of like disappears, right?
No shit.
Yes. In this dude's picture, I used to see his picture on X all the time, especially on a lot of crypto accounts. They would put this guy's picture on there and make it look like it was them, or, they were like off in their private jet. And it's so funny how a lot of people, I think, today have a really hard time discerning from what's going on in front of the curtain and what's going on behind the curtain, right? Like everybody just goes, no, that's how it is. And it's like, no, that's not how it is. This guy isn't rich. That isn't Bruce Wayne. He's making his entire existence on lying to women just like you and flying to see the next one.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about it like this. If you like, for the ladies, if you're looking for a successful man in most aspects of his life, his career, his finances, his physical well-being, like he takes care of himself, all these things. If this is what you're looking for, and is a good, ethical, moral man, you're probably not finding him on a dating app, right?
Probably
Because
not.
he's probably doesn't have a problem meeting somebody in his day-to-day life who is a good match for him. And you can say the same thing about women, right? So what are we doing at the end of the day? It became weird to approach people in public and try to have a conversation. I remember, I'm sure you probably feel the same way, remember the same thing. When I was growing up as a teenager, it was okay. We used to go to the mall just to talk to girls. We used to go to the mall just to go to girls, pretty girls, and ask for their phone number so we could go back home, call them on the phone, and talk to them on the phone, usually for hours on end, until your parents were yelling at you to get off the damn phone because someone needs to dial up internet for something, right?
Yeah.
What happened to that, right?
I don't know.
Why is it creepy now to start a conversation with someone, right?
Yeah.
So
That's a good point. It's like things are like labeled now, right? It's like, oh, well, if you go talk to them, you're weird. It's like, are you? Really? Is everybody weird? I don't know. Sometimes I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, when you think that everyone's like us, like go out in public and you realize that no one's like us. Like, are we the only normal ones? Like, what? There's got to be other normal people here somewhere, right?
Yeah. It's weird that you think it's weird. How about that? But going over to the women's side of things, when and why did women start treating dating like a financial transaction, right? And this is coming from somebody who money's not an issue in my life, right? But what I would say is that if I was in the dating scene and a woman says to me, I need you to take me out and spend hundreds of dollars on a dinner on a first date with me because I'm just too good for coffee. Listen, when you are dating somebody in the beginnings of a relationship, first date, fifth date, 10th date, whatever, right? A couple months in, that person, whether male or female, is presenting to you the best possible version of themselves to convince you that that's who you want to be with because they like you, right? That's the best they will ever be. When they get comfortable, it's going to get
only downhill from there. That's the peak.
Exactly, right? So for women, if on the first couple of dates, you're trying to get me to spend tons of money on you, I'm thinking down the road, this is the best version of you that you're presenting right now. You are not 2 years down the road. You are not going to be someone I want to be with. You're not the type of person I want to build a family with, right? Because on the inside, you're ugly. It doesn't matter how much you did your hair and your nails and, you got butt implants or whatever the case might be. It doesn't matter, right? You've shown me you're kind of a shitty person. You're just after money, right? And I'll tell you right now, ladies, listen up. Guys with money want to date someone who likes them for them. They
Mm.
don't want someone who wants to date them for their money because you're dating their bank account. You're not dating them, right? So when that's what you represent, when your response to what do you bring to the table is I am the table, you've already lost interest in the guy, unless he's a simp, right? You've lost all. And at the end of the day, let's be honest. If he is a simp, that's a feminine man, right? That's not going to be able to protect you and provide for you in the long run anyway, right? Any real man out there who respects himself, when he hears I am the table, your perky personality is not the table, right? Right? It's just not. A relationship is two people coming together to improve, to make something better than each one could do on their own, right? And when you're not bringing anything to make something better besides your personality and your go-to attitude, right? And it doesn't have to be money, right? But again, it leads back to if your attitude is I don't want to cook, I don't want to clean, I don't want to make a house a home, because I truly believe in the old saying that whatever you give a woman, she will multiply and give back to you. That's another one of a woman's superpowers, right? You give her a house, she makes a home, right? Um, and I truly believe that. But when you don't want to, when you want someone to provide everything to you, but you don't want to do shit, right? You want to act like you're single. You want to go with the girls. You want to go clubbing. You want to go to Vegas on a girls' trip and stuff. You think we don't know what that means, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like, and it's fine to want those things. No one's saying, nobody's saying that you can't want what you want in life. You're absolutely free to want whatever you want, but don't go around saying there's no good men out there, or, you know, yeah, just there's no good men out there. Don't go around saying that kind of stuff when you're not actually looking for a good man. And at the end of the day,
Mm.
good men, I'm sorry, they're looking for good women. I know. Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thunk it, right? I think that all the time where you see you see these women that are like, are all guys just bad? And it's like, no, but you literally pick the shittiest personality type is for whatever reason what you keep going after.
Yep,
Like like a I've always thought, it's like men can read men just like women can read women.
yep.
And it's like I can see this, this personality a mile away. This guy's a piece of shit. And it's like that's what you're into. Like this one ain't gonna end well. You
Oh,
know,
that's a car with no brakes.
yeah, yeah, like you're gonna be on the next one here before you know it. That's coming around the corner. Yeah, I remember one of my friends when I was younger. We were talking about this at one point, dating, and he was like, "First date McDonald's." We were like, "What? First date McDonald's?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Cause that's when you can tell." He was like adamant about it, and we were like, okay, first date McDonald's. What does that say about you, though?
Yeah.
You
Well, one of my best friends that I grew up with since we were kids, little kids. Um, he's actually one of 40 specialized anesthesiologists in the United States. There's only 40 people that do what he does. Very specific. I believe he's an anesthesiologist for children, for sick
Okay.
children,
Okay.
right? And heads up his own ward in Arizona and all that stuff. Financially, extremely successful, right? And I've been around for all of his relationships and stuff like that throughout his life. And he came to me one day when he met his current wife, and she is a bigwig CEO,
Hmm.
right? She dwarfs what he makes, and he makes a lot of money, right? But she dwarfs what he makes. We were sitting around the fire pit in his backyard when I was out in Arizona there a couple months ago. Just the two of us having some drinks, and he says to me, it's good to be in a relationship. Like they're married now. He's like, it feels so good to be with someone who I know is not with me for my money because she has more than I do, right? And I was so happy to hear that, because that peace of mind for a man, right,
Mm.
is and listen, she's more successful than him financially, but she wouldn't have been, because he took all of his money from his career and helped her buy out this company, buy out the other owners, right? And take control of this company and grow it out. He risked everything he had financially to help her grow this company. And that's why I say that two people, they come together and they build something phenomenal together. It's not about one person just supporting you and you sitting on your ass, right?
Yeah.
And now she's a massive, successful CEO, and she dwarfs his income, but she wouldn't have without his help.
Right. Right. I think kind of what you're tapping into there is that in every good relationship is complementary, right? It's complementary. It's yin yang, right? You don't like date yourself on the other side. It's not the way it works. And like you can. I think when you're in the middle of these, when you're the one who's dating, it's hard to see that. But
Yep.
like when you get out of it, or if you see it in like your friends or brother, sister, whoever, you can see it pretty clearly. And usually it's like the couples that you can tell right away are going to last are very complementary of each other in multiple different ways. And the ones that aren't are almost like too similar sometimes. It's like maybe they became attracted because there was something there that they reminded them of themselves or something like that, but then it quickly kind of fizzles out because it's not a complementary relationship, you know?
Yeah, I think that part of you has to admire who the person you're with is on some level. You have to admire them inside, I believe, right? And I believe you have to be willing to. You might not ever have to, but you have to be willing to take actions, whether it's financially or otherwise, when you're in a serious relationship with someone that might not be in your best interest, but is in the best interest of the person you're with. Sometimes, and it might not be financially, it might be mentally or emotionally, right? Or you might have to put yourself and your needs aside temporarily because it's what your partner needs, right? Sometimes you have to take a step backwards in your own interests to take two steps forward in theirs,
Mm.
and that should be able to propel you both forward, right? And most people are not willing to do that. They hear something, this is what's required of me to help you, but it doesn't benefit me, so I'm not willing to do it.
Yeah, I could see that. And then, I think what compounds here is then when it goes south, then they resort to like this isolationist thing, where, like I said, the easy thing is to just sort of give up, to go back to your place, to sort of, yeah, I'm just living by myself. And that's how you get all these lonely people out here that are just completely disconnected, but they're on their devices all the time, but they're really connected to nobody, you know? There's no
Yeah,
foundation there.
that's exactly it. I think we all just need to kind of, you know, take that step back and evaluate, because so many people say like, well, I'm a good man or I'm a good woman. Can you take inventory? Are you? Right? Are you?
Mm.
You know,
Right.
would you date you? Usually the answer is no, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm an asshole. I wouldn't date me. Well, there you
So,
go.
okay. So speaking of assholes, so back to the manosphere. So what do you think about these guys that, it's like the algorithm pushes them, right? They're getting the clicks, they're getting the views, but you're pushing this asshole. You know what I mean? What do you think about that? Like, you know, I think sometimes the social media, I get it that it's all math and it's trying to keep you invested and keep you watching, and it knows that the longer you watch the video, it's going to send you more videos of that type or whatever or posts. But at the same time, like culturally, like like if I was leading one of these platforms, I don't know if I'd be good with that. I think I would have a hard moral battle of, you know why are we pushing somebody like an Andrew Tate on X? You know what I mean? And even Elon himself, I mean, the dude's got 14 kids with like what, like 10 different women. I mean, come on, man. You are like the shittiest father on the planet. Like, do we really need to keep promoting that guy? You know?
So I agree with you. I think it's people taking something that's true, putting a magnifying glass on it, and blowing it out of proportion, right? Like some of the premise that someone like an Andrew Tate would say, like a man needs to lead his household, for example, right? It's true. You need to be a leader, right? And but the way that he leads is the
Let's
problem.
say leads very loosely here.
Yeah, like when you're trying to lead without respect and consideration, well, that's a completely different thing, right? Now you've changed it from leading. Um, that's the kind of leader, like if you were in the military, you know, your men might take a little bit. They might walk instead of run to save you, kind of thing. If you're in trouble, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I think it is, and I think it is exaggerated because it's clout, right? It's we live in a world where attention is currency.
Yeah, I think being divisive gets clicks, right? Being divisive, but the problem with social media, and especially with AI influence on social media, is that everything is projected as true, right? And if you don't know any better, you believe it's all true, right? But the reality is I mean, half of what AI spits out is not accurate. It does have errors. It is missing things. And like if you just perceive all of it as true, you're the train's off the tracks already. And I think when it comes to some of these influencer type people like that, like I said, what's going on in front of the curtain versus behind the curtain are
Yep.
completely different stories here.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's a lack of honesty as well. Uh, everyone seems to want to represent who they are and how their lives are in a grandiose fashion on the internet, right? Um, no one wants to be honest, men or women, right? And I think that's also a problem. But uh, at the end of the day, I don't know what the cause is. I guess the way we've explored this is maybe it's a combination of social media, dating apps, and that's kind of sissified our society, which has kind of been a chain reaction or dominoes where men don't want responsibility. They don't want to take care of women. They just want to sleep with them or become them. And women want to, women just want money. They don't want a family. They don't want to be a homemaker or anything like that. And maybe we're doomed as a society, right? Who knows? I mean, every successful society in history has collapsed at some point, and maybe we've peaked, right?
I don't know. I don't know. I think you're being a little pessimistic. So I think that what is being highlighted is like the worst stuff. But that doesn't mean that there's not good people out there, right? Like I think I've told you before, like with music, a lot of people that are, like Gen X type generation, they're, oh, the music today sucks. There's nothing good. There's no good music. Yeah, there is. There's tons of good music. You're just too lazy in how you find it. Like, well, I just listen to the radio and they just play everything from the 70s and 80s or whatever, right? It's like, well, you're sloppy and lazy about it. You're not actually searching out new stuff. And if you did, you would find that there's tons of good new stuff. And so, case in point is that for every, shitbag Andrew Tate, there's somebody really good out there who are not highlighting. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Which again kind of goes back to the algorithm and the clicks highlighting all the wrong people.
Well, there's a fad I've seen that's been going around, something that's been trending lately, and it's women talking about going to church to meet a good man, to meet men, right? And what I see all the time is like, well, there's no good-looking men there, though. Right? They're not my type. They're not. Well, what do you want? So you want a good? I don't understand. I like the idea of going to church to meet a good man, right? The premise, the concept of it is good because it's a great place to meet a good person, whether it's a man or a woman. But if you're only there treating it as a dating opportunity, what does it say about you?
Yeah.
And the guy that you find, is he is the relationship going to work long term when he finds out that the only reason you were there in his house of worship is to find a man, right? Not to show respect, and you're not actually devout, so to speak, right? Because that's who he's looking for, someone devout, someone he can share those beliefs with, right? You're coming in there under a false premise. What does that say? you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember that book, The Secret? Do you remember that?
No.
Okay, so this came out like, gosh, probably 15, 20 years ago. And it got real popular for about a year. Like, whoever wrote it was on like Oprah and, the whole book tour and all that stuff. And the premise of The Secret was basically like reaffirming like a mantra. Like if your goal, let's say, was I really want to drive a Lamborghini, whatever, then you would kind of tell yourself every day, I'm going to drive a Lamborghini. I'm going to drive a Lamborghini. And you're constantly reaffirming it, right? And the trick of it was like a psychological trick. The trick is what you're actually doing is you're programming your brain to recognize opportunities. That's what you're doing. That's what the secret is. And so like the point is I think you could apply that same logic to dating, to marriage, to relationships, that if you're looking for a quality mate, then in your brain you need to be able to recognize opportunities of where quality mates are. Like you're not going to find this um you're probably not going to find this person at spring break in Daytona, right? like it's just not going to happen. I mean, there's certain places where you're probably more apt to find somebody, and you may even be surprised at where they are. Maybe it's like the grocery store or something like that. Maybe it's just somewhere where you naturally kind of are, and you're just sort of being you.
Yeah.
That's what's attractive, right? Like there's far too much of putting on a facade to try to pretend to be somebody else, when in reality everybody just wants to see who are you actually. Which is why I was saying, with like a lot of those celebrities, I look at them and I sit there and I go, who are these people? Like, who are you actually? Like, is there anyone real in this whole group, or
Nope.
are all of you just completely fake? you know
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, what it boils down to is men. First of all, everybody put your phones down, right? Put the dating app down, put the social media down. And men, you see that girl at the beach or at the pool hall, or at the malt shop, wherever it is, right? Go say hi, right? Be respectful and polite, and get to know her. Women, when a guy approaches you, even if he's not doesn't have the triple sixes, right? Six packs, six figures, and like all this stuff, whatever. Maybe give him a chance and get to know him, and let's get back to normalizing having conversations and getting to know people, because you might be swiping left on a great opportunity.
Well, that's a fantastic way to look at it, right? It's open-minded, being open-minded to anything could happen and you don't know everything. Like one of my favorite lines that I repeat all the time is that everybody's an expert and no one knows what they're doing. I think that's 100% true on this front, right? I mean, everybody is an expert. Everybody's giving each other advice. No one knows what they're doing. And it really, again, open-minded, recognize opportunities for what they are and see what happens. Like, I don't know if you remember that movie, Yes Man, with Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Like that was a great movie, right? Because he had to say yes to everything. And he was the guy that always said no to everything. He starts saying yes, and it was like his whole world opened up. It was just crazy things are happening,
He
and
found a
that was
great
kind of it.
relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Life experiences, and it changed him. Absolutely. I agree with you. That's a great example of, maybe say yes a little more often. Stop worrying about what people around you think, and seize the opportunities out there. Because, again, you're probably missing out on some amazing people. Me and my wife, we didn't meet on the internet,
There you
right?
go.
We
Yep.
met in person because we were just happened to be around the same place. We worked together, right? And 15 years later, here we
15
are.
years later, there you go. See, I've been married 15 years too. Same deal, met in person,
Yeah, met in person. There you go.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Well,
uh,
one parting thing though is I do have a really good friend of mine that I refer to as Jim Carrey from Yes Man, but equally it will be like, "Hey, I've got a really great idea. What do you think?" And he'll go, "Yes." And then somebody will come along and go, "Hey, I have a really terrible idea. What do you think?" And he'll go, "Yes." So it can backfire. I'm just saying.
well, yeah, you're not going to bat 1,000, but nobody does.
No one bats 1,000.
So, yeah. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Nah, I think we pretty much covered this one. I think if anyone has any more thoughts, leave them in the comments. If you're seeing this on YouTube, if you're listening to the podcast, check us out. We got more great content right around the corner.
Yeah. Swipe right on opportunity. See you guys in the next one. God bless.
Shift out.